And so if you were only to do one cycle, perhaps 12 weeks long, the likelihood of you dying or having an early death because of it is very slim to none. But does that mean you should do it? Coach Greg, in today's video, we're going to be going over the science as to whether one anabolic cycle will actually hurt you. Well, it turns out that the research says that it actually won't. But I want to give you my opinion on what I think.
If you think that one cycle can't hurt, you're probably right. We have pretty conclusive evidence to say that anabolic steroids aren't harmful short term, but rather it's on the long-term scale that you start running into issues.
And so for the most part, the true dangers of anabolic steroids only occur through long-term use. And so if you were only to do one cycle, perhaps 12 weeks long, the likelihood of you dying or having an early death because of it is very slim to none. But does that mean you should do it? Is it actually safe? And for the most part, do you really think that when people take steroids that they're thinking about the long-term damage that they're doing? I believe that almost no one who takes steroids actually thinks about the long-term damage that they're doing. But there are a lot of things aside from left ventricular hypertrophy, cardiac death, strokes, and so on that people are more concerned about.
There are plenty of studies showing that the cardiac dysfunction caused by anabolic steroids short term are reversible after the treatment stops. So no, one cycle likely won't hurt, but most people don't stop at one cycle. After you get a taste of what being enhanced feels like, you find justifications in your own mind to just keep going.
And so he says the problem is most people don't do only one cycle. And that is very true. Once you've had a taste for how good it feels to be on performance enhancing drugs, the gains that you're getting, the changes in your mood, cognition, everything, it's very hard to stop. Let's compare it to this. You've never drank in your life. You start drinking. You really think you're only going to get drunk once. Once you've been drunk once, you think you'll never drink again? Or do you really think that you're just going to do that one line of creatine and never ever do it again? And so many people, they think, oh, I'll just do it once. I'll put on 20 pounds of muscle. I'll stop. I'll keep all the gains and then I'll be happy. You're not going to be happy and you're likely going to be worse. When you train natural, for the most part, you feel good most of the time. But when you're on the super supplements, you feel amazing almost all of the time. And once you go off of them, you go back below that baseline. And so you start here, you take performance enhancing drugs, you feel like this, you're through the roof. But when you go off of them, you don't simply return to baseline, you go even further down. And that can make you not only feel shitty on the physical, but also on the mental. Your mood goes down, you can actually suffer from depression. You perhaps can't get harder than last time in the bedroom, and your testosterone levels, they're actually going down. If you're interested in perhaps helping with that, you can of course click the link in the description, code Greg 10% off. We do have G-Test and harder than last time.
And at that point, it's your job to keep an eye on your blood pressure and your blood work to make sure you don't end up with any of these. As long as you're doing that, even cycles after your first one won't do that much damage. So do your blood work, check your blood pressure, be safe, be responsible, and do your own research. Peace.
And so just because doing one cycle doesn't have evidence to show that it could kill you at that time, do you really think that that's reason enough to just simply go out and do it? And so let's think of things that could happen if you do just one cycle. You could get horrendous, awful acne. Have you seen anyone have horrible acne in the past? Perhaps you're taking Accutane, which also is hard on the liver, hard on the body. Have I not done videos on guys who took steroids and their acne was so bad that their shirts were sticking to their bodies? They were sleeping in a bed at night and it would rip apart and bleed. What about gynecomastia? Has anyone ever heard of that? You know, the bitch tits. You get female breast tissue development under your nipples, and that is a gland that has to be removed through surgery. It can cost upwards of $5,000 to do so from one cycle. And so even if the cycle is free, and you're thinking, oh, what could it do? Well, you might have to spend $5,000 to correct this. Or, of course, live with that for the rest of your life. What about when you come off? When you stop a cycle, your body is no longer getting that testosterone from an exogenous source. Your bowels are now half the size they once were, which doesn't really matter because it just makes your dick look bigger. But what does matter is a lot of people cannot get an erection. Or at least if they're lucky, it might only last a few minutes. And so imagine you're trying to have sexy time and it's simply not working properly. You no longer have the testosterone levels that you once had, and many people, I'm talking tons of people out there, experience this difficulty. This is because when you stop performance enhancing drugs, way harder to get an erection. Not only that, your libido, your sex drive, how bad you want it, goes way down. When you're on performance enhancing drugs, it goes through the roof. You want to have it perhaps 2 or 3 times a day. That might sound good or bad depending on your partner, but once you stop and you don't want it anymore, what do you think your partner's going to think? It's bad enough that you don't want it anymore, but what if you can't satisfy your partner? Do you really want that to happen?
If you're going to dip your toes into the water, the chances that you're actually going to stop there are very, very small. A line of cocaine probably isn't going to give you long-term issues either, but I don't see people rushing to get into that.
And so what do you think is going to happen? You're going to continue to take those steroids. Oh, I'm going to take it for 3 months. I know people who said that and they're on it for 3 years. And that's straight. They can't even stop. And why? Well, because all the things I'm talking about, they come to fruition. Also, steroids can make you look a lot older, and oftentimes they hold you onto a lot of water. And so you look puffy. It makes you look fatter. You're thinking, no, it's going to make me shredded. Oftentimes people take steroids. They do look bigger, but they also look fatter. Let's check out Christian Guzman, who we know used to be natural, but more recently has been taking performance-enhancing drugs. At least we assume so. Let us look at him right now. We saw just how shredded he was, competing in men's physique, but look at him right now. He looks to have aged 30 years. He looks significantly older. I do not know if it's the lighting, but you can tell he looks a lot more puffy, a lot more water retention, and significantly older. The guy's only about 30. And so if you do take steroids, oftentimes it can make you look a lot older. I've seen videos of others in the past, and I see these comments all the time. This person, that person, I don't want to name them all. They often say they look way older than they actually are. And so if you are trying to look young, hot, and so on, perhaps taking steroids not as smart as you once thought. Next, while you're on steroids, you're feeling great, you're looking amazing, and you're thinking, this was worth it. I can handle this. I'm not going to die for this. I'm just doing this one cycle. But then you stop, and every single week that you go to the gym, you get both weaker and smaller and possibly have higher percentage of body fat. And so how much fun do you think you're going to have to go to the gym when every single week, week after week, you get worse? When you go to the gym and you train harder than last time, you look in the mirror and you're getting better, that is motivation to continue. How much motivation do you think you're going to have when every single week you go to the gym, you look in the mirror and you get worse? You continue to look worse, you're weaker, you don't feel as good. And sooner or later, do you know what's going to happen? You're probably going to develop body dysmorphia. You're comparing your physique now to when you were on steroids. It's never going to look as good. It's never going to be the same. And so what do you think happens? You can't wait to go back on. You thought, oh, I'll just do that one cycle. But once you've experienced the losses, once you go off of that cycle, you are going to want to do it yet again. And one more thing, let's add to this. What about your hairline? Many people who are prone to going bald, they take anabolic steroids and it expedites that hair loss, makes it faster. And so you're going balder faster than last time. And yeah, it's not that big a deal. It's just hair. It's not going to make you die younger, but many people very sensitive about their hairline. And so if you can handle all of these things and it's legal in your country and you do so with the advice and consent of your doctor, well, that's on you. But if you don't want any of these things to happen, you can't handle them, it's not legal in your country, and you don't want to break the law, you haven't talked to your doctor, then why would you ever do it? And so in comparison to other drugs, perhaps steroids, they're not the most dangerous ones out there. I'm sure there are drugs far more dangerous that you could die at any time. I know people die sometimes from using recreational drugs that are laced with other things, and steroids for the most part do not lead to an acute death. But does that mean it's actually safe? Just because it most likely won't kill you in that short period of time doesn't mean it's actually worth it. And so there's a wide variety of negative side effects from taking performance-enhancing drugs that many people don't consider. Please consider all your options before you start. My advice, never do them. Wait until you're older and always do so with the advice and consent from your doctor. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget about all the books I got. You know, the cookbook, the training book, the Circle diet book, as well as the Harder Than Last Time protein bars, the pre-workouts, creatine, so many different supplements. Head over to my website and also free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages, first and last name and email address coming straight to you. And until next time, I am out.